Welcome to Infinity Cast, the podcast that explores the echoes of history in our modern world. I'm your host, Elias Whitlock. Today, we're digging into the past, quite literally, to unearth the story of a radical group from the English Civil War who challenged the very foundations of society. They were known as the Diggers. And to help me navigate this fascinating chapter of political history, I'm joined by my co-host and fellow historian, Lark Nova. Welcome, Lark.
Thanks for having me, Elias. It's a fantastic topic. To really understand the Diggers, you have to imagine England in 1649. The Civil War is over, King Charles I has just been executed. The entire country is in a state of shock and upheaval, a world turned upside down. And it wasn't just political chaos, there was immense economic hardship. For decades, the process of enclosure had been fencing off common lands that ordinary people had used for generations to graze animals and grow food. This created widespread poverty and a huge population of landless, desperate people.
Exactly, and into this charged atmosphere steps a man named Gerrard Winstanley. He was a former cloth merchant who had lost everything. He began to have visions, and he came to a profound conclusion that God had not created the earth for a few to own and exploit, but that it was meant to be a common treasury for all.
That phrase is so powerful, a common treasury for all. And Winstanley didn't just write about it, he acted on it. On April 1st, 1649, he and a small group of about a dozen followers marched onto a patch of common land on St. George's Hill in Surrey. They didn't carry swords or muskets, they carried spades, and they began to dig. That simple act of digging was revolutionary. It was a form of nonviolent direct action. They were making a statement that was simultaneously political, economic, and spiritual. They weren't asking for permission from the local lord of the manor. They were asserting what they believed was a divine, natural right to the land.
They called themselves the True Levelers to distinguish themselves from another political group, the Levelers, who were more focused on political rights like voting. The Diggers went further. They argued that there could be no true freedom as long as there was private ownership of land, which they saw as the root of all bondage and oppression.
It's an incredibly early, articulate expression of proto-socialist or even proto-communist thought. Winstanley wrote that as long as some were landlords and others were tenants, one part of humanity would always be lifting up another to slave them. It was a radical critique of the entire social order.
And unsurprisingly, the establishment didn't take kindly to it. Local landowners, the clergy, and even Oliver Cromwell's New Model Army saw them as a profound threat. The Diggers faced harassment, legal challenges, and mob violence. Their crops were trampled down, their huts were burned down.
And within a year, the main colony at St. George's Hill was dispersed. Other small digger communities that had sprung up in other parts of England met a similar fate. On the surface, it seems like a complete and utter failure.
But was it? Their physical communities were destroyed, yes, but their ideas, published in Winstanley's powerful pamphlets, endured. They planted a seed of an idea that would lie dormant and then reemerge in later radical movements.
Absolutely. The Diggers' legacy is a reminder that the struggle for economic justice and the right to the land has deep, deep roots. Their story resonates today in modern movements for land rights, environmentalism, and the creation of commons. They were a brief, brilliant flash of possibility.
A forgotten but vital piece of radical history. Lark, thank you for helping us unearth it. That's all the time we have for today on Infinity Cast. Join us next time as we continue to explore the past that shapes our present.